Chapter 6, Meditation 3, Working with Feelings and Emotions. The Russian author Alexander Solzhenitsyn has written that the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. It is not as if only others have anger, fear, hatred, greed, and aggression. It is not someone else who is the cause of all the problems in the world, but it is the nature of all of us together. It is a very important task in meditation to learn how to be with the most powerful energies of our own being, and to find some compassion, mindfulness, and openness in the midst of all of our feelings and emotions. By now you have probably noticed the play of moods or states of mind and feelings in the heart that change and very much determine your experience. So you sit and sometimes you are bored, or you are restless, or you are afraid, or you are happy, or you are in love, or you are depressed. You can see how when these states arise for us, they can color the whole of our world. If you wake up and you are in a rotten mood, when you are angry and depressed and so forth, it almost does not matter who you see. There is something you will not like about them. Similarly, if you are in love, you can have a car accident and say, "Oh, it is just my car, it is all right." It is obvious that the sensibility, feelings, and flavors of your mind and heart have a very powerful effect on what your life is like, almost more than the circumstances themselves. When you experience your emotions directly, you may begin to weep, or you might be sad, and after a while we can label it sad, 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 until it dissolves. Or sometimes, all of a sudden, you realize that underneath that sadness is actually another emotion, like lonely, lonely, lonely. Then you feel that for a little while until it goes away or it changes and you can go back to your breath. Most people believe that if they could only get rid of all their difficulties, then they could really meditate. In fact, all of these difficulties are a very important part of your journey. We have so many opinions about what is good and what is not, but we really never know. Sometimes, fully experiencing an emotion we think we should avoid, like anger or resentment, turns out to be the opening to the very lesson we need to learn. For instance, when you really study your anger deeply and learn to accept it without judgment, this can be the first step toward an understanding of it that begins a very deep movement toward forgiveness. One afternoon, I was meditating in a meadow, and I was having kind of a la-di-da meditation. My mind was doing creative things and planning, and every once in a while I was feeling the breath and just enjoying myself being somewhat quiet. Then, all of a sudden, a fly landed on my face. My first impulse was to brush the fly away because it tickled and was unpleasant. But then I thought, hey, I teach people to observe sensations like this, so I'll just stay with it. So I sat up a little straighter, and I was just feeling the sensations, itching, tingling, until the fly moved to the edge of my nose. My nostril was probably moist, and it was a hot day, and the fly probably was attracted to the moisture. So I took a breath and decided to stay with the sensations. Then I began to feel fear that I might accidentally inhale the fly, or it might climb up inside my nose and get caught in there. I began to feel my belly quiver, and I watched the fear rise with these tiny footsteps on the edge of my nostrils. The fly stayed for at least 10 minutes. What was interesting to me was that during those 10 minutes, I was not planning. I was not doing my taxes. There was nothing creative going on. And I was not worrying about anything else. In fact, there was nothing else in the universe except for those tiny footsteps. By the end of 10 minutes, I was more present and centered and concentrated than if I had gone to a monastery for a month. The first feeling that many people experience in meditation is desire, or the wanting mind. It is sometimes called the if-only mind. You are sitting there following your breath, and all of a sudden your mind says, if only I had something to eat, or if only it were warmer, or if only it was cooler, if only I had a nicer, more comfortable meditation cushion. The problem with the wanting mind is that even if you get what you think you want, it does not stop. It says, all right, I've got the nice car, but now I need more money. It is always something that we do not have in the present moment, something that we want to obtain in order to satisfy our longing. The way to work with desire in meditation is the same way we worked with body sensations. It is not very useful to suppress it, because when you do it, it comes out in some other way. On the other hand, you do not want to act on it either. If you are like me and you acted on all of your desires, they would lock you up. So you do not want to suppress your desires, and you also do not want to act all of them out. What you can do is to begin to use your desire for insight and understanding, and to learn from your desire how to find some freedom in your relationship to it. So when desire arises, you can sit and name it as wanting, or desire. You can examine it in order to feel what it is like. If it is hunger, is your belly hungry? Is your tongue hungry? Or is your hunger in your mind? Is it in your heart? Often when we are hungry, it is really because our heart is lonely. In meditation, perhaps for the first time in your life, you're not going to try to fulfill your desire, but you're going to sit and feel it and see its nature. You will watch it arise, you will feel what it is like in your body, and you will name it. Eventually, it will pass away, and then you will see the next thing rise up. You will begin to see desire's impermanent nature, and you will also realize that you do not have to act on every thought or desire. You will learn that you can choose from the many possibilities of how to respond to desire when it arises. And you can discover a new kind of freedom where you do not have to follow your desires, but can choose to behave in new ways in response to your desires. So what do you do when this wanting mind continues to tap you on the shoulder? First of all, you can recognize that whatever it is saying this time, it is always just the wanting mind. Seeing this, you can name it. In the same way that you named your bodily sensations. Instead of getting up and opening the refrigerator door or whatever your desire is, you can note it as desire or wanting. And you can remain sitting there and feel the hunger or the wanting or whatever it is, and you can name it wanting, or if only, and sense what its energy feels like. Then you have a choice. Will you get up? Sometimes getting up may be the right thing to do, and other times you will recognize the qualities of the wanting mind and find a way not to have to follow it every time it arises. As you acknowledge desire or wanting, you can begin to see that your mind acts like a little child at Disneyland. I want that candy, and I want to go on that ride, and I want that stuffed toy. Even when you're trying to meditate, your mind is still a lot like a child at Disneyland, desiring a whole series of things. One of your options is just to continue to sit and acknowledge it. You do not have to get angry with your mind. You can just see that it is doing what a mind does, and you can find a place of rest in the midst of it. So you're sitting and feeling your breath quite naturally, and all of a sudden your mind says, I do not like this. I do not want that. I want that to go away. I hate that. You are beginning to feel the resistance of the mind, which is the opposite of the wanting mind. In the same way, we can bow to this great force in our lives. Here is the wanting mind, and now here comes its opposite: aversion, anger, or fear, the aspects of mind that judge or push away our experiences. This includes judgment, which is also a kind of aversion. That is bad. You're doing it wrong. Aversion and judgment also include fear. I do not want to feel this. I do not like this. This also includes boredom. Boredom says, I do not want to be here. I want some other experience than what God has provided for me in this moment. Essentially, all of these are states of resistance. As you experience with desire, it is difficult to work with aversion, fear, and judgment when you get caught in them. Usually you have mostly acted out your fears, angers, and judgments unconsciously, without understanding them. The key strategy to working with them in meditation is to begin to face them. When you feel them rise up, instead of acting on them or pushing them away, you can embrace them. So if you are angry, then just allow yourself to be angry, and you can sit and label the feeling as angry. Then you will note what anger feels like in the body, what its energy is like, how it changes your breath. It is common to experience it as heat, but you can continue to examine it further. Is it pleasant? Is it painful? When you notice an emotion like anger rising, you might also try to identify the quality that is there just before the anger. Right before anger arises, there is often a sense of hurt or fear or loss. When you can feel that, you can notice how little compassion or kindness you have for yourself and others. When we feel fear, or when we feel pain, or when we feel hurt, our response is often anger. But what is most healing is to acknowledge the anger and to notice what causes it, and to hold that in our attention. In a similar way, you can be aware of judgment. You're sitting and your mind wanders, and you say, my mind shouldn't be wandering. I should be staying with the breath. I'm not doing it right. Then you say, well, I shouldn't be judging myself either, which is just another judgment. So you say, I shouldn't be judging that either. Pretty soon you have a whole string of judgments. So what do you do with judgment? You can sit there and bow to it too, and you say, there is the judging mind. Everyone has one. Fear is another emotion that many of us would like to avoid, or that we believe we shouldn't be experiencing. There is a story told of Mullah Nasruddin in which he was bragging that he had once caused a whole tribe of Bedouins to run. His friend asked him how the mullah alone had made a whole tribe of wild, bloodthirsty Bedouins to do this. Nasruddin said, it was simple. I ran and they all ran after me. This is the way that fear works. The further we run, the faster the fear comes to find us. When you meditate and fear arises, you can use the same process you've already learned, where you sit and note. Fear, fear, fear. When you sit with fear and name it, sometimes you will begin to feel what it is like in your body. How does it affect your breathing? Does it make your mind bigger or smaller? Then one day you will be sitting and fear will arise, and you will feel it and recognize it and think, oh, this is fear. I recognize you. Welcome back. Then it is as if the fear becomes one of your friends. Another common energy that arises in meditation is sleepiness. Sometimes you sit down and feel so sleepy that your head begins to nod. Sleepiness is caused by different things. Part of it is that we are so busy that when we sit down and get quiet, our body says, I haven't had enough rest. I have been running around too much. When this happens, you can acknowledge the sleepiness as a reminder that from your body that you need to go give it more rest. What can you do when this kind of sleepiness is really strong? You can open your eyes or stand up and continue to meditate standing up while you are walking. Other times when you feel sleepy, it is not so much that you haven't had enough sleep, but that your body becomes very quiet during meditation, and it is not yet used to being both quiet and alert. In that case, you would do best to sit up straighter, let your eyes open a little bit wider to bring more brightness into your meditation. You could also breathe a few breaths more deeply, and you could also acknowledge the sleepiness in the same way that you bow to judgment or anger or the wanting mind by saying, oh, here's sleepiness, sleepy, 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 and sense what it feels like and what it does and how long it lasts. In some sittings, it becomes like a fog for a time and then it passes away. At other times, it can be very difficult, but that does not mean that you have to struggle with whatever's happening. You can understand that these are the natural energies of your mind and heart, and that they can be included in your practice. Now, the opposite of sleepiness is restlessness and worry, and you can investigate what restlessness feels like. We are conditioned so that when we feel restless, lonely, or bored, what do? We get up and turn on the TV, or we call someone on the phone, or we distract ourselves somehow. So our whole lives are spent running away from certain basic states like loneliness, boredom, restlessness, or fear. In meditation, however, when restlessness arises, you just label it restlessness, and feel what it is like. What can you do when the feeling of restlessness is really strong? You can continue to sit and say, okay, kill me. I'll be the first meditator in history to die of restlessness. In that moment, when you're willing to remain sitting even though you feel you are going to die, the restlessness changes. What makes these states so powerful is our resistance to them. But the moment you accept them, they lose a lot of their power. It is the resistance to them that makes them so difficult. Another common experience that arises during meditation is doubt. I cannot do this. It is too hard to sit still. Or, my mind is always wandering. I'm too young. I should wait until I'm older. Or, I'm too old. I should have started when I was younger. You may decide that this is the wrong kind of meditation. All of these thoughts say, I cannot be where I actually am. I need it to be different somehow. What can you do when you experience doubt? You can simply bow to it. Or, oh, there's the doubting mind. Everyone has it. You can watch the doubting mind as it comes and goes. There are actually two kinds of doubt. There is the small doubt of I cannot do it, it is too hard, it is the wrong day, and so forth. But there is also something called the great doubt, which is the deeper questioning of who you are and questioning the nature of your heart and mind and consciousness. This is the doubt that brings us to realization or understanding. As you sit, you will experience not only these difficulties, but also feelings of love, happiness, bliss, and rapture. And you can name these as well: love, happiness, bliss, rapture. The point is not to suppress them, but to open to what is there with awareness, wisdom, and kindness. We have cut ourselves off from so much in life, and we begin to understand this through this process of meditation and paying attention. Now, one thing that you will notice when you are labeling the moods and emotions as they come is that they do not last very long. Thoughts come quickly. Thoughts generally last just a few seconds. Body sensations tend to be a little slower. Moods are in the middle. For the most part, there are about 2 or 3 different feelings per minute. If you are labeling your feelings, you will notice that a feeling will rarely last long enough to label it 15 times before another feeling will arise. Another kind of question that comes up is, what if the feelings are really strong? You are sitting and sadness comes up, and all of the sudden the grief that many of us have carried for years rises, and you weep for a long time. The answer is that this too is fine. Sometimes the theme of meditation is sleepiness. Sometimes it is tears and sorrow. Sometimes it is joy. Whatever it is, let the feelings come and go as they will, and that will be your meditation. Sometimes the clouds need to weep themselves to their end, a poet said, in order for us to have the clear sky shine out from behind them. So do not be afraid of whatever feelings arise in meditation. Let them be a part of your practice. My teacher said that if you haven't wept deeply, you probably haven't meditated for very long. For our third meditation, once again, first sit in a way where your body is comfortable, erect, and stable. Let your eyes close or leave them slightly open but downcast. In this meditation, you will continue to work with the breath as your central object of attention, feeling as carefully as you can the actual sensations of the breath. When your body's sensations are strong, you can name them as itching, tingling, hot, cold, pain, or whatever. When sounds arise and interrupt you, like a loud car or someone coughing, then you can note those as hearing. It is important not to create a story about whether they are good or bad noises, but just to note the act of hearing until the noises pass away, and you can return to the breath. During this meditation, we will see if we can also recognize the arrival of any strong moods or feelings like love, desire, anger, contentment, restlessness, doubt, or bliss. When you notice the arrival of any strong moods, let go of the breath and feel them as fully as you can. Experience what the individual emotions and feelings are like, such as wanting, rapture, or fear, and name them softly as long as they are present. Try to stay with them as long as they are there. Then, when the feeling passes, return to the next breath. When one mood passes, try to be aware of the next feeling that is present. Peace might turn into excitement, or sadness might turn into fear. Through it all, try to remain centered with your breath, your body, any sounds you become conscious of, and the movement of your heart.